Greetings from the far side of the galaxy. I'm Fuuri, your host with the most, here to tell you a story about titties. And for the first time since the series began, we're talking about a woman. But before we get that far, let me ask that you like and subscribe. I also have a Elite Show video you could watch if you're feeling up to it. Oh, and don't forget to leave whichever Housamo hero you want next in the comments. The one after this one is Krampus, but who knows what's after that. I'll stop there because I've showed enough of my content for one video. Today's Housamo hero is the modest moonstruck maid of the Roppongi Tycoons, Melusine. Spoiler warnings for chapters 6, 7, 8, and the Battle of the Bells Christmas event. Melusine is a transient from the world of Tir Na Nog and the personal servant of the Tycoon's guildmaster Licht. We don't know her rule or role. No, wait, we do. Wow, it's been forever since we did. Her role is the Sovereign and her rule is Requisition. Her rule affects her wings, making them her sacred artifact. It allows her to draw in and store any number of valuables. However, it can do more than that. It can also catch and store wind and heavy artillery, for example. She's like Kirby except blue, and a dragon, and a maid, so yeah, not like Kirby at all. Should probably take this out of the script. And while the stuff she carries is sort of stored in a pocket dimension, the weight does still affect her. The reason behind her artifact lies in the first part of her inspirations, that being European dragons. Which should be obvious since her 4-star is literally titled the Dragon Maid. Huh, you know, if I had a quarter for every franchise with a Dragon Maid, I'd have 3 quarters, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that there's more than one, right? Anyways, Melusine's dragon inspirations are pretty overt. Her artifact collects valuables since folklore dragons were known to hoard gold. The more interesting piece of inspiration comes from her namesake, the mythical Melusine. And yes, that is Melusine on the Starbucks logo. To keep things from getting confusing, the transient will be called Melusine and the myth will be called Melusine, although they're both pronounced the same in reality. Melusine was a freshwater spirit often depicted as some sort of mermaid or lamia with a fish or lizard bottom half. That's probably why life owners gave Melusine a pretty fish-like tail for a giant flying lizard. It's also said that some European dynasties, particularly those from England and France, are descendants of Melusine. There is one very famous Scottish story that focuses on Melusine's mother, Pressin. The story goes something like this. Pressin married King Linus and one of her conditions was to never intrude on her and their children's privacy. Linus, being the upstanding, self-respecting classical literature character he is, decided to ignore the warnings and do it anyway. Linus sees their fishy bottom halves and Pressin takes the children and runs away, but Melusine and her sisters do come back. They lock Linus away with all of his riches, but when Pressin finds out, she curses Melusine to take a fully serpentine form. Oof. You know, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that perhaps she wasn't the best mother. Later in life, Melusine marries a Lord Raymond of Poitou. Taking a page out of her mother's book, she tells him not to visit her chamber on Saturdays. And Raymond takes a page out of Linus's book and does it anyways, learning of Melusine's serpentine form, but she forgives him. However, once he accidentally lets it slip in court, she turns into a dragon and flies off, never to be seen again. I guess women in Melusine's family just really have no luck with men, do they? I actually gotta say that Life Owners did an excellent job with adapting Melusine. I say that because Life Owners managed to blend Housamo's original lore perfectly into Melusine's inspirations. The fact that Melusine was royalty inspired the fact that Melusine was Tir Na Nog's Queen of Dragons. And you know how Pressin and Melusine's stories are so similar? Well, that lends itself to the nature of Melusine's home world of Tir Na Nog. You see, Tir Na Nog's system is inheritance, titles moving from one to the next, immortalizing their rulers and thus the world. This has the side effect of making every ruler share the same fate. You can see this in the festival event with Cait Sith and Grimalkin. The fact that Melusine's story is so similar to her mother's makes Melusine a perfect fit for Tir Na Nog's Dragon Queen, where rulers share the same fate. And the theme of deceitful men found in the myth is also adapted wonderfully by Life Owners into her backstory. As defined by her rule, Melusine naturally collected valuables, forming a massive hoard of wealth and riches. However, it ended up being a curse, as any and all suitors would be more interested in her hoard rather than Melusine. This all came to a head when the man she thought was the love of her life revealed his avarice. Melusine had had enough. She unfurled her wings and flew, flying so far she crossed over into Tokyo. That is why Melusine hates her own wings. Her ability to attract riches also seems to attract the worst kinds of people. Melusine was racked with grief and despair until she came across Licht. Licht knew everything he had to say to tell Melusine he wanted her loyalty, not her wealth. And it was those few honeyed words that earned Melusine's unwavering allegiance. And thus our dear Dragon Queen becomes our dear Dragon Maid. From here on out, you can witness Melusine for yourself in the main quest. Believe it or not, she's first seen right at the end of chapter 5, but she has like 2, maybe 3 lines, so I don't really count it. Her first real appearance is right at the beginning of chapter 6 when she brings Charlotte to Lick to goad them into going to Kabukicho. She's next seen when the player is sent to contact the tycoons by Tetsuya. Due to a slight change in plans, she ends up taking the player to the museum where Lick's paintings are on display. Here, the player is able to get her to open up a lot about Lick and even guide them to Lick's paintings. After a rogue compliment makes Lick accidentally betray the tycoons, they all retreat to his studio. Here, Lick reveals that he was just telling Melusine what she wanted to hear when they met, yet Melusine chooses to stay by his side. The words may not have been genuine, but the hope they gave her certainly was, so she comes along as they sneak into Roppongi Hills. They all manage to sneak in, but they are quickly stopped by Lucifuge. She's nearly killed until Lucifuge recognizes one of the player's exiled souls and switches sides. During the Roppongi exception, she and Licht mow down the resurrected ogres to clear a path. She's last seen offering Licht her support in rebuilding the tycoons after the exception. She's next seen in chapter 8 when the 3 Shinjuku guilds show up to fight the cavalcade of exceptions at Otamachi. More importantly, she and Licht muse on the nature of the game, realizing it's been engineered to benefit the world representatives. Kind of a weird final note for our last appearance, but it is what it is. And that is where Melusine's role in the story ends so far, as it's been translated. Honestly, I really like Melusine's character. She's kind and almost meek, yet has a fierce and reckless side that peeks out on occasion. I mean, she was about to fire a rocket launcher in that museum and was only stopped thanks to Toji showing up. The trope of a servant that has fallen in love with the master is cliché, but it's also really good. Lifewonder seems to agree with me since they used it twice. She does have a major role in the Battle of the Bells Christmas event, which I will talk about when we get to her units, which is coincidentally right now. Blah blah blah, 3 and 4 star are the same, bow type and water attribute, you know how it goes. Although her 4 star does differ by having 1 skill evolution. Her first skill, Excavator, gives her crit after moving, which is good, but its 64% proc makes it only okay. Her second skill, Ruler, gives CP to allies in a 2 square diamond radius, but CP skills aren't really that useful. Her fourth skill, Winged One, gives her extra horizontal movement, which is pretty good, or it would be if her other skills were better. Her third skill, Dragonborn, lets her learn shouts instantly by spending Dragon Souls. Oh, no, wait, it gives her a 40% chance to get crit when attacking, which is better than her other crit skill, but still not that good. And yes, this video's soundtrack was inspired by that one joke. She's an old unit, so don't be surprised that her skills are not that good, but her 4-star gets a pretty good skill evolution. It replaces her second skill, Ruler, with Ruler of Cannons. It gives extra CP to allies in a 2 square diamond radius at phase start. Then she copies enemy buffs in a 3 square cone and removes enemy buffs in the same 3 square cone after moving. Then she has a 90% chance to inflict oppression in the same 3 square cone after moving. And then she deals nearly double damage to all enemies with oppression. Why aren't all skill evolutions like this? She went straight from sucky to really good. She's not the best bow type 4-star, but she can get the job done. Her limited unit is also a bow type 4-star, but strangely enough, it's fire attribute. The event story is that the player gets invited to this Santa race and Melusine was one of the reindeers who pulled the sleigh. I think the specific moment this unit is taking from is right from the end. It's when Melusine releases all the stuff stored in her wings for an extra boost of speed. Her skills are as follows. Her first skill is still Ruler, but it sucks since it can't be evolved into Ruler of Cannons. Next is Cutler, which has an adorable name and less adorable odds at 40% to apply Blessing at turn start. Third up is Blind Shooter, which at phase start has 60% proc of inflicting weakness to enemies in whatever range this is. There's like 8 squares that aren't covered, might as well make it every enemy on the board at this rate. Blind Shooter also gives her an 80% chance of inflicting oppression when attacking. Her final skill, Yuletide Dancer, lets her inflict Dazzle to every enemy on the board and a 60% chance of inflicting Drain at phase start. I kinda prefer her normal 4-star to be honest, but neither are particularly good or bad, just okay. Her 3-star can fuck right off for all I care, cause that shit's actually bad. Her normal 4-star is good at oppression, so Asterius, Bale, and Christmas Benton make a good team. Her limited unit is like the Red Eyes archetype from Yu-Gi-Oh! In that it's not good at doing a bunch of different stuff. That's 2 Yu-Gi-Oh! References in one video. Perhaps I should lay off the Master Duel. Her skills won't help, but they certainly won't harm, so just put her on any team if you really feel like it. Now that the video's winding down, let's take a look at Melusine's relationship chart. Akio likes Melusine because they both love to clean, and she likes Licht because she kinda has a crush on him. She also likes Sangrasnir because she relates to him having an idyllic past that was ripped away. On the flip side, Snow dislikes her and she dislikes Snow because they have this butler-maid rivalry going on. It's one of the funnier details about her. Melusine does have one loading screen she shares with Licht. It features Licht giving her chocolate missile a thumbs up with the word approved. It's likely a reference to a similar loading screen Claude has with Snow. To round out this video, Melusine's a really neat character. It's the inner complexity she doesn't show that makes her so interesting, so I hope she does more in the main quest. As such, this humble maid gets Fuuri's official stamp of approval. Blah blah blah, like and subscribe, comment which one you want next, you know how it goes. As always, this is your host Fuuri, signing out.